Hello guys, today I will be explaining you a new anime series called Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. In a world full of chaos and destruction, a man runs desperately, ignoring the cries of those around him. As he flees, he comes across a horrifying sight, a zombie devouring someone. Fearful, he searches for an escape route, avoiding a group of monstrous creatures. With a look of despair in his lifeless eyes, he screams, expressing his anguish to a world devoid of hope. Meanwhile, in a messy home, an office worker named Tendo seeks refuge in a movie, finding it more appealing than his mundane office life. While eating, Tendo glances at the clock and considers sleep. However, captivated by the film, he continues watching, as a character expresses their longing to break free from work. Suddenly, Tendo collapses, overwhelmed by his own desires. 3 years ago, Tendo eagerly introduced himself to his colleagues when he joined a production company. The atmosphere was friendly and welcoming, filling him with excitement and optimism. He settled into his seat and met the department chief, Kasugi. Amidst the busy environment, a chance encounter with a woman left Tendo entranced. Instantly smitten by her captivating face, he fell in love at first sight. The woman, named Atori, made a lasting impression on Tendo, encouraging him to reach out if he needed help and motivating him for his first day. As night falls, the company throws a welcome party, where Tendo is bombarded with questions from his colleagues, eager to get to know him. The office has a relaxed dress code, but Tendo chooses to keep his tie tight as a symbol of his determination. He proudly shares his passion for playing rugby, impressing his senior colleagues. Throughout the night, Tendo's eyes are drawn to Atori, who notices his gaze and responds with a warm smile, deepening his infatuation. Driven by his affection, Tendo resolves to showcase his talents to impress her. Time passes, and the party comes to an end. Tendo says goodbye to his coworkers, but to his surprise, they put on their identification cards and return to the office, disregarding the late hour. Confusion fills Tendo's mind as he sees everyone engrossed in work. Unfortunately, his own tasks are rushed, forcing him to spend the entire night in the office. When he wakes up, the cycle of work continues, trapping Tendo as night falls once again. Hearing talk of dinner, he realizes they won't be leaving the office. Finally, after 2 days, Tendo completes his first day of work. Exhausted, he collapses into bed upon arriving home, only to be jolted awake by the sound of his alarm. Despite his fatigue, Tendo gathers the strength to prepare for work, driven by determination. He cheerfully greets his colleagues. In the following days, Tendo learns about the unexplored benefits offered by the company from a coworker. He also observes 2 men boasting about their unpaid overtime hours in a playful competition. Luckily, a senior colleague named Takahashi treats Tendo to a free dinner. However, Tendo notices that Takahashi struggles to stay awake. Adding to his troubles, their boss, Kasovi, is known for loudly scolding employees, which even brings one girl to tears. Tendo watches silently as she walks away, while Kasovi remains angry. Unfortunately, the overall health of his colleagues deteriorates as Tendo enters his 2nd year at the company. Tired and worn out, Tendo rests on the couch, coughing. Suddenly, a phone call interrupts his moment of relaxation. Hurrying to answer it, Tendo trips and falls. As he gathers his belongings, he realizes that he hasn't taken a bath in days. Unfortunately, Kasovi shows up and assigns Tendo more work, further draining him of energy and hope. Tendo yearns for an escape, even wishing for a missile to strike him and end it all. Unexpectedly, Atori arrives with food and drinks, urging Tendo to eat properly. Surprised, Tendo stutters during their conversation, but then becomes aware of his own unpleasant odor. Looking at Atori, Tendo confesses that she is the only reason he continues on. Sadly, their boss calls Atori into his office, and she leaves after motivating Tendo once again. However, as the door closes, strange noises can be heard, revealing that Atori is actually the boss's mistress. Helpless, Tendo trembles with anger and endures the unsettling things he overhears. Upon returning home, Tendo contemplates leaving the company. As he walks down the street, he fails to notice passing vehicles, luckily avoiding any accidents. Eventually, he boards a train, but his mind remains in turmoil. In a moment of distraction, he bumps into something, mistaking it for a person. Despite his confusion, Tendo continues on his way until he reaches his 3rd year at the company. With wide open eyes, he listens to a client asking him to revise a commercial script. Tendo informs them that there have already been 5 revisions, which leads the client to consider giving the work to another company. Reluctantly, Tendo takes on the task. However, his notes reflect the chaos in his mind, filled with disturbing scribbles. The stress of the workplace and Kasovi's constant yelling worsen his mental state. After finishing his shift, Tendo sees the train as an obstacle keeping him tied to his job. As the rain pours down, he watches television and slowly drifts off to sleep. Coincidentally, a news segment about exploitative companies resonates with Tendo, illustrating how they push their employees to the brink of destruction. The next day, he cries, desperately wishing not to go to work. Nevertheless, he puts on his uniform while watching the monotonous and chaotic scenes on television. Despite the challenges, Tendo leaves his house, locking the door behind him. To his surprise, he finds a bill for his bike parking and knocks on the manager's door to pay it. Worried about being late, Tendo opens the door, only to witness a horrifying sight, a zombie feasting on his manager's body. Startled, he watches the gruesome scene, catching the attention of the zombie. Tendo quickly stands up and runs away, but another group of creatures blocks his path, relentlessly chasing him to protect their own lives. Confused amidst the unfolding chaos, Tendo stumbles and trips, accidentally opening a door. He gazes at the zombies, struggling to understand what is happening. Instinctively, Tendo flees, desperately trying to escape the relentless pursuit of the monsters. He reaches the rooftop, witnessing the havoc that has befallen the city, destroyed buildings, a wrecked airplane, mindless zombies, and overwhelmed police forces. In that moment, Tendo realizes that he is no longer confined to the office. Despite the approaching horde, he rediscovers a sense of freedom, releasing a triumphant yell. Breathing heavily, Tendo lies on the ground, feeling happy and thinking about what to do next. He looks up at the sky and remembers his list of goals. Despite the presence of the never-ending zombies, Tendo shouts in celebration because he finally has a day off, enjoying his newfound freedom. He laughs to himself, recalling the dull and colorless life he just escaped, now appreciating the vibrant blue skies and green trees surrounding him. Despite being chased, Tendo's determination remains strong as he runs, skillfully avoiding the monsters, determined to reach Otori. In the midst of the chaotic country, Tendo arrives at an apartment complex, recalling Otori's address from the company's contact list. Approaching the designated unit, he feels nervous but pushes through and rings the doorbell. To his surprise, the door is slightly open, and he notices a pair of men's shoes inside. However, his attention quickly turns to a zombie, who happens to be his boss. In an act of defiance, Tendo removes his tie, symbolizing his resignation. The boss charges at him, but Tendo tackles the monster, remembering his friend's words of encouragement. Successfully defeating the boss, Tendo scans the area and sees Otori, but his heart sinks as he realizes that she too has become a zombie. Overwhelmed with sadness, he starts to confess his feelings to the transformed Otori, clenching his fist. In his imagination, he envisions Otori as a human, smiling back at him. However, he quickly snaps back to reality and runs away from the woman he once loved, bidding her a sorrowful farewell. At night, Tendo sits in front of a convenience store, deeply contemplating his new life without work. Considering his next move, he stands up with a determined smile, entering the store to grab a pen and a notebook. Leaving payment for the items, he writes with a renewed sense of purpose, jotting down a bucket list of 100 things to do before the possibility of turning into a zombie. And so, with this, our episode comes to an end. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.